with our discussion from last week's meeting? If someone can give me a yes or a no.
Yes, you can see us.
Yes. Oh, okay, great, great. And so last week we had Marian presenting on the demo for us, and we didn't get a lot of time for Q&A at the end. I was wondering if you guys wanted to spend a little bit of time on Q&A for this today.
It was Alexander, not Marian. I wasn't.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry, Alexander.
Yes. Yeah, we're from the same company, but yeah.
See, and your voices are a little bit the same, so I got confused. I'm sorry.
Yeah, from same country as well, same accent.
Yeah, exactly. So, did anyone on the call want to talk about that beginning now for this week?
I had a couple questions, if it's okay. So, Marian, my understanding you were going to also try to integrate the SciPTF server into that framework eventually. Is that part of your objective?
Not really, no, but actually Sonic already has that. It just wasn't tested for Dash use case. It's a build option in Sonic to add SciPTF server. We didn't try that. Yeah, so there wasn't actually any work done in Dash case.
Okay, so as I recall, there's one test case in C++ that essentially populates a table entry just to prove it all links and builds and does that. Did you have some objectives? Are you guys going to do more in terms of testing, or is that kind of the stopping point for you and you're hoping others are going to start adding on to that?
Oh, but that's not SciPTF. The one that I created a pull request for was a Sci implementation for the simulator. So SciPTF goes on top of that.
No, I understand, but let me restate. The existing test case in your pull request just has a simple C binding test that verifies you could send a message over P4 runtime, etc. It's just a simple test case with no SciPTF, just Sci. Do you plan on adding more cases to that, or is that the end of your work in this effort?
At this moment, no.
Okay.
We are not planning on working on a test plan or anything like that at this point of time. It may change, but not right now.
Okay, so in order to get to this software testing model with the SciPTF, there's an effort to create a workflow and or build infrastructure to tie it into the SciPTF and then write test cases on top of that. Is that correct then? If we want to go through this BMV2 behavioral model, and have test suites for that against the model. Okay, just want to get it out there. There's now kind of another whole phase to be done. Okay, thanks.
Great, thanks. Anyone else before we move on to other topics?
Christina, I could give a small update on the SciPTF itself, since Chris has mentioned it here. We have made all the changes for the framework itself to adapt to the Dash type of a device with fewer ports, and we are testing and also some of the test cases related to the router interface and L3 forwarding as well are being ported to the Dash type of a device with fewer ports and all that. So we want to ensure that all the test cases will be used for Dash as well. And to start with, we will take a subset of those test cases that can easily work with fewer ports, and others that we think are really critical are also being changed to adapt to this type of a device. Once this is completed, I think we should start a small subgroup. We could meet bi-weekly where we can discuss how SciPTF can be used on a hardware or BMV2 as well that we have for the overlay. And then, as we continue, maybe we can collaborate even more, and Keysight can also add as Chris was mentioning, overlay test cases as well into the framework. And we will also start upstreaming some of this code once we review into the SCI repo, Dash repo. And these are the things we can also conclude in those sessions as to where the SCI PTF for Dash will reside, which repo, and also the SCI APIs, the list of SCI APIs that are going to be part of Dash, which are taken from the Sonic SCI APIs, right? The list of the Sonic SCI APIs that we have, if we can have a list of what are those APIs that will pertain to Dash, that kind of detailed conclusion on each of the SCI APIs will be good to have a full list of those APIs that we need for Dash, and then we can implement all of those in SciPTF as well, and to have that as a future reference for what are all the Dash APIs. It will be important to have that list somewhere.
And I believe Prince gave me that list a while back, and so I will find it for you.
Sure. I have one of the previous old draft lists from November, December timeframe. I had sent an email to you maybe a few weeks ago when there was a question of whether some of these test cases pertain to Dash or not. So yeah, if we can go through that list one more time, we can have we can all meet together in a different sub-community meeting and then conclude on that. That'd be great.
Kind of how this group started or began as the Dash testing work group, and we, shifted it to overall Dash because the testing questions kind of exposed the engineering questions we needed to answer. So we could go back to, like you said, a bi-weekly format like that.
Sure.
Yep, I agree. Yep.
Or even in one of these meetings we could discuss too. Either way works. Yeah,
Chris, were you going to say something?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was basically echoing what Reshma said. It's probably time to start doing that, and probably needs to be a small focus group to begin with, because I think part of it's just getting the infrastructure and kind of the hello world on SciThrift working, and then when we start getting some infrastructure in place, probably more people will be interested.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm ready to start having those meetings.
Yeah, Christina, Reshma, and Chris, given the fact that the API is auto-generated now based on the P4 pipeline, right? Should we introduce a version so that we can have the versioning for the API and somewhat having the relevant test case for certain version as well? Because as thing being developed right now, it is changing.
Yes, it will be good to have a version for Dash. That will have a concrete info of all the APIs,
Yeah, I think there's two ways of handling this, and then maybe they're both going to be used. One is an explicit semantic version of the API, if we want to call it that, and maybe that semantic version is related to the version of the P4 model itself. And there's also just GitHub has all the built-in, commit level tracking. You can pin things to certain versions so that when you run a test, all the component versions that were involved. So that's probably something we just need to decide together. I brought up this configuration management question sort of rhetorically several months ago.
Yeah, so, you did.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll need to come up with some mechanism that's kind of baked into the whole process. It's a good point, Lisa.
Yeah, on the same subject, guys, one thing that I noticed when we started out this journey, we saw that the SCI folder on GitHub had, two subfolders. One was overlay and one was underlay, right? So those are already pre-generated APIs that actually, it had. And in the underlay, it had the older set of APIs. that basically we used in Sonic, right? So, but it was a subset of those underlay APIs. Now with the introduction of, auto generation of these overlay SCI APIs, we have really, removed those underlay APIs subfolder from there. Now, could we bring those things back so that we know that, okay, these are the only underlay API that pertains to Dash, and then we just, have them be there because they are predefined APIs, not auto-generated. So this is just, wanted to bring this one point because I noticed that part, and then I don't know what everyone's take on this.
So those APIs were put by me there for the reference, and they were removed because now they are tracked in the Sonic Dash design document. Since how you rightly pointed out, underlay is not auto-generated, it is inherited from switch SCI.
Yes.
We took a subset of that, and the list of attributes that are required to be supported in Dash are listed in Sonic Dash design, and let me post a link to it in a moment. So they are in the repository. They are just not as header files because it's harder to maintain the list that way, and those header files won't be used anyways. We will be using the full header files, just not all of the attributes.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. At least have some sort of a reference to it to say, okay, these are the ones that we believe as of now pertains to it. And that could change as we move, and then people can refer to it for the most latest one into their, SCI repository itself, right? The OCP's SCI repository.
Yeah, so I'm posting a link to the section that has a list of those underlay SCI APIs.
Okay, thanks, Marian.
Marian, is it true that your scripts that do the auto generation also it clones the OCP SCI repo and then creates a filtered subset of the underlay APIs automatically? You don't do that anymore?
I haven't done that before. What I do is simply add overlay to the experimental folder where all the extensions are put, and that's it. Underlay is untouched.
Yeah, underlay were never generated or never brought in from OCP SCI, so they were like reference. That's it.
But if you generate a SCI API with the script, you will get the full SCI API, the one that is available for integration with the libraries. You will get both underlay and overlay, but underlay will have everything.
So how will we automatically create the correct subset of underlay APIs for, let's say we want to create the complete?
I don't think you can do that automatically because there is nowhere to derive this from. It's just based on the features we think will be needed, like host interface, like configuring layer 1 port, stuff like that.
Wasn't there some kind of a command line option for that script that said which tables to exclude or include?
No, it's all about overlay. Underlay is done manually.
Okay.
So this is the list that we think will be, and it's up to a change, that we think will be actually used by Dash Sonic for the underlay. Like, for example, if you want to create a port, which will be done on any device, if you want to create a host interface, if you want to assign speed to a port, stuff like that. General management.
So, Marian, this is a list that you think is sort of sufficient at the moment for the use case we're talking about, which is VNet to VNet, right?
It has nothing really to do with VNet to VNet because VNet to VNet is handled by overlay. What it covers roughly is initialization, creation of the port, creation of the host interface, and underlay routing.
Underlay routing, right? Yeah, underlay routing is a must without which we can't really use overlay. So yeah, I will go through this list because now we are talking about one use case at the moment, and then we will need as an edge device ACLs and lag and other things that might require for regular functioning of the SmartNIC device. That should also be included under Dash. So I will go through this and we will do some and we should discuss this, Christina, at some point
Yeah.
in one of our sessions.
Yeah, yeah. And would it be possible for anyone to comment on this, like in a PR format, if they think something different is needed, just to get it documented?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there may be more things to add,
yeah,
or maybe
yeah,
this is already sufficient. Just that as we add more and more use cases, right?
yeah.
This list will certainly expand. And the way I'm looking at the SmartNIC and the Dash device right now,
Mhm.
it's more of a superset. Maybe you don't, but I just feel like it really is able to do all the things that the switch can do in terms of functionality. So majority of the SAI APIs will apply. And then we can expand the list based on the use cases that we're discussing and we plan to support. But majority will apply from the switch
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, thank you for thinking forward on that. Yeah, that's great.
And back to Lisa's point, if we have some agreed upon subset of underlay APIs, we probably at some point need to define a configuration or version of that subset. Right? So we all are talking about the same thing. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, we will need a version with whatever APIs that we will conclude on together in the meetings, hopefully sometime soon. And then, subsequent versions can have more APIs added from the switch side or new APIs defined specifically for Dash.
Thanks for showing us this, Marian. This is great. Were there more comments about last week's demo, or should we move to a different topic? Okay. I don't see any hands up. Just an FYI, Michael Miele and I have been working on kind of fleshing out the documentation more. And so we are, I'm creating, some more drawings and diagrams, and Michael is changing for example, I didn't think that there was enough information in, the fast path, the slow path, inbound, outbound, and what happens at each stage. After we evaluate for example, after we evaluate the VNI and we determine direction, and then, kind of what happens after that. So we've been working on this documentation. Once we go through it and we decide we like it, we'll, move it into the main diagram, but we're doing more of like a flow chart view for here, like packet direction, flow, and transform. We look for the direction, we're trying to figure out if we're inbound or outbound based on the destination MAC or the source MAC, blah, blah. Are we on the fast path or not? And then we have a set of actions that happen afterwards, and where, of course, you decap it, if you come from SLB or whatever, try to find a match in the flow table. These are the inbound and outbound fast path. And then we're also working on fleshing out the slow path here, trying to make it more readable for you guys and for everybody. So we're working on this. And then I'm also working on, I'm going to stop sharing my screen while I pull it up, but I was working on the routing document and I thought that I needed more pictures. So I'll show it to you guys. Okay. So I'm working on a diagram here that gives more of a view into, this isn't great. But I'll have to do a custom, but basically, you know, virtual network A, virtual network B, the VMs inside and the different subnets. Let me do 40% there. And, you know, possibly if we're trying to force traffic through an NVA, I don't have this all finished, but the different, you know, the different destinations that we can have here. And so I'm working on this and I hope to insert it into the routing document. You know, VNet to VNet would be the first one I do once I get this template done, where we, you know, kind of insert the appliance and then we do the communication between the boxes. So that's what I've been working on in the background as well. And we'll insert it into the routing document when it's ready or better. So. And that's really all I had for this week. Does anyone have anything they want to bring up?
These diagrams are very useful, very especially the appliance and the smart switch related diagrams that you had created.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, we're working on making them better in the background and try to flesh out each piece. So thanks. Also, in other news, we've been having the behavioral model and the high availability smaller working group meetings and trying to make progress in those meetings as well. So those happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we're moving forward with high availability. We were trying to come to a conclusion about a couple of different methods to do it. So we're still fleshing that out. And behavioral model, people have been making progress on the work items. So just an FYI there. Oh, a question for you guys. Next week is Memorial Day on Monday. And I didn't know, you know, the community meetings on Wednesday, and I didn't know if people would be out of office next week or the majority would be out, or, you know, people at Microsoft sometimes tend to take the week if they have kids, or they take that Monday and then they'll take the rest of the week. But wasn't sure what you guys were thinking for this meeting about having it next Wednesday.
I think I'll be
no
off.
preference.
What's that?
I will be off next week. That should dictate things.
I was thinking I might try to be as well, but how about everybody else? Were you know, I can always hop in for a meeting on a Wednesday. I should have created a poll in the Teams meeting so I could figure out if people wanted to have it or not.
It would be okay to cancel, I would think, even based on majority of whatever.
Do we have any tentative agenda for next week?
I don't have anything right this minute, so no. So maybe it would be a good idea to cancel and let people have a week off. I'll send out, yeah, I don't think I'll send a poll. Let's just think about it and let me know what you think. I also attended the P4 meeting on Monday, where Roop had his question posed to the P4 working group or committee. And Roop or Andy, did you want to cover what was discussed on that point?
I can try to summarize here and
Yeah.
let Roop chime in if I've missed anything critical.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, my understanding is Roop is looking at implementing some of the PNA things, for example, data plane add-on miss into table entries for useful for Dash and other features. And when he wants to implement this on the BMB2 software switch, an open source software switch that's been around for several years. And right now there's a limitation, and there has been for years, and that limit, and it's unlikely to, it's not a trivial thing to extend, but it doesn't support if statements inside of P4 action blocks definitions. And at least some of the sample code in PNA kind of requires that, or it's useful for that. So some implementations support that, some don't. And as a workaround, a short-term workaround for implementations that don't support it, we're discussing basically an alternate external function API that basically includes the condition as a parameter. And so we were discussing what that type of that parameter should be and whether it supports expressions in the language and whether the BMV2 open source compiler already supports that or not. And I've been working through some example programs that I believe demonstrates that it does already support that. And so working towards an implementation of these things in the BMV2 open source software switch. Did I get that? Miss anything good there, Roop?
Yeah, no, that's pretty accurate. Yeah, I think this is just to bring it to the Dash context where we're trying to implement we have actually implemented a version of the API we proposed for connection tracking, and what we're trying to go through in the meeting with the rest of the community, the PNA community, pros and cons of various approaches and so forth. So like Andy said, so yeah, it's to basically do the connection tracking use case that many of you are familiar with.
Awesome, thanks. I thought it would be interesting for everyone else to hear about, since it was a point in that meeting. I feel like we're kind of tying the meetings together with all the different things we're talking about, so it's kind of fun. Does anyone have a question for Andy or Roop on that specifically?
Thanks for Christina for asking Andy and Roop to talk about it here. Mm-hmm. Is this in addition to the BMV2 changes that NVIDIA have already added, Roop?
Yeah. We haven't pushed our current set of changes yet. We're kind of trying to get the PNA alignment, and if there are changes needed to our current implementation, we'll do those and then push them up. But hopefully, at some point, we should be able to push our changes.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Well, honestly, that's all I have for today. I could give a half hour back if you guys would like to do that. And since I can't see any heads or faces, is that a yes or?
No.
Yeah.
What's that?
I'll take the 30 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Latte time.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
been a busy spring for sure, and especially with the P4 workshop and all the presentations, and I've really enjoyed attending and learning more about these different things, and so thanks for inviting me to all of those. So I'll stop the recording and send out the notes as usual. I appreciate your time, and have a good rest of the week, everyone.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Christina.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.